Next on the news, as students and teachers celebrate Catholic Schools Week, Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan examines the ABCs of a Catholic education: academics, belief, and character.
And science. The new STEM lab here at St. Andrew Avellino Catholic Academy in Flushing is one of several classrooms Bishop Robert Brennan visited and blessed Tuesday. I'm Jessica Easthope. That story's coming up.
A Forest Hills school is kicking off the week with an act of charity.
When disaster struck on the West Coast, this Queens Catholic school stepped in to help out. I'm Katie Vasquez, and I'll have that story coming up.
Moving outside the classroom, we look to remember one of the darkest times in history, the Holocaust. Hear from survivors who lived through the horrors.
It leaves scars.
And those determined to keep their stories alive.
I do this because I understand that I would not be here today if not for him.
I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. The Diocese of Brooklyn is celebrating its schools. Bishop Robert Brennan is traveling across Brooklyn and Queens this Catholic Schools Week, all to showcase the importance of a faith-based education. On Tuesday, His Excellency was in Flushing, Queens, where, as Jessica Easthope reports, St. Andrew Avellino Catholic Academy was under the microscope.
Progress of the sciences and to learning.
St. Andrew Avellino is hoping to show Bishop Robert Brennan they're a cut above the rest. Bishop Brennan visited the Flushing School Tuesday to celebrate Catholic Schools Week and bless a new art room and STEM lab.
We blend together the arts and the sciences, the academic learning, but with that sense of faith, with the sense of friendship with Jesus Christ.
The day started out with a greeting.
Good morning, morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. How are you?
And came full circle for the 8th graders who had their class rings blessed by the bishop during Mass. A special moment for Pastor Father Gregory McElhenney.
To have Bishop Brennan come and to offer the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass and tie all these things together just brings that Catholic identity and that foundation that we stand on as Christians here to Northeast Flushing.
But the highlight of the day happened when the school came under the microscope.
Oh, now I see it. I see it.
Bishop Brennan took a closer look with 6th graders who were examining threads.
He's spending time with us in the church, around the school. He's blessing the new first floor, all the classrooms, the STEM lab, the art room. It's helping us grow closer to God. So, Catholic Schools Week, it's one of my favorite weeks in the whole school year.
Principal Debbie Hanna said the bishop's visit tied in the national theme of Catholic Schools Week, united in faith and community.
And he went over to every table and he looked in the microscopes and he engaged with the kids. And I said, whoa, this is an aha moment. He's here, it's happening, and he's happy to be with us. And I was really happy that he was.
Bishop Brennan will also be visiting Good Shepherd, St. Stanislaus Kostka in Greenpoint, and Resurrection Ascension Catholic Academies later this week. In Flushing, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Bishop Brennan kicked off Catholic Schools Week with a Mass on Sunday at St. Ephraim's in Diker Heights. Students and faculty from the Brooklyn Catholic Academy joined the bishop for the celebration. Following the Mass, Bishop Brennan was given a winter wonderland tour of St. Ephraim's by their student ambassadors. The shepherd got to meet the teachers, visit classrooms, and admire students' artwork, essays, and other projects. A Queens Catholic Academy is starting Catholic Schools Week with their own charitable project. The students from Our Lady of Mercy in Forest Hills launching an initiative meant to help those suffering from the deadly wildfires out in Los Angeles. Currents News' Katie Vasquez has that story.
Firefighters in the Los Angeles area overwhelmed as flames destroy property and lives on the West Coast. And those on the East Coast watch in horror.
To see it destroyed like that is devastating, just devastating.
It just gets worse and worse. It's really bad. I feel really sorry for the animals and people over there.
Which is why all 300 students at Our Lady of Mercy Catholic Academy in Forest Hills are starting Catholic Schools Week with a show of support, writing letters to California first responders and members of the Pasadena Humane Society.
Thank you for saving our beloved animals from the wildfires. You protect the animals and give them shelters. They are part of our ecosystem.
The older students guiding the younger ones in their penmanship, passing down their knowledge and a lesson in charity.
Making them feel better.
I feel like the first responders over there will really enjoy them, and it'll give them motivation, because coming from a whole school, it's just amazing.
Very good, very good.
Some students also turning into support animals, donating $2 to dress down as furry friends. Tuesday was Service Day as part of Catholic Schools Week, and the school was happy to spread the lesson.
We teach religion in the school. You teach kindness and being helpful and so on and so forth. But this actually is a lesson where they're actually doing something hands-on. And they were very excited about it.
One that just might be sinking in for these students.
I didn't dress up as an animal because I didn't have any animal stuff, but I still donated money.
Our Lady of Mercy anticipates they will donate a total of $1,000 to the nonprofit. All the letters will be mailed out by the end of the week. In Forest Hills, Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
To enroll your child in a Catholic school, just visit CatholicSchoolsBQ.org or call 718-965-7380 for more information. Be sure to follow Currents News and the tablet for continuing coverage of Catholic Schools Week and the amazing ways Catholic academies are enriching students across the diocese. There's a lot more news headed your way. It's been 80 years since the liberation of Auschwitz, and the number of survivors is dwindling.
He was at a labor camp before he went to Auschwitz.
Hear from a woman who's working to keep their stories alive. Plus, a Torah that was hidden during the Holocaust and only found a few years ago is now being restored. And you can visit Anne Frank's house without even leaving the country. It's part of a new exhibit in Manhattan.
All this playing takes a lot of planning.
We can have the kids go in groups to the different stations.
Caterina Casiliano is the day camp director at Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Hi, let me see what you got.
Where her faith fuels the fun.
For me, this is another beautiful gift that God has given me in my life, and I'm grateful for it.
How Caterina Casiliano makes up the pulse of the parish. Wednesday on Currents News.
I was unfortunately born in Nazi Germany in January 28, 1925.
Wann ich die Augen schließen werde, weiß ich nicht.
When I was 8 years old, Hitler came to power, and that was the end of my childhood.
Stories of survivors. One New York woman has made it her mission to preserve them. Monday marked the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz and International Holocaust Remembrance Day. The granddaughter of a survivor wants to make sure his story and the stories of others are never forgotten. Dana Arshin is the storyteller at the Holocaust Memorial Tolerance Center on Long Island. She joins us now. Hi, Dana.
Hi, Christine. Thank you so much for having me and for your interest in sharing this story today.
Thanks for being here. Now, Dana, I know you're a former news reporter in New York City, but now the stories you tell are personal. Tell us about your grandfather.
Yeah, so, they were always personal because I, at my last station, actually started a Holocaust series where I would go around interviewing Holocaust survivors. And I did that because of my grandfather, who I've always called my Poppy. He passed away a little over a year ago at 101 years old, just shy of his 102nd birthday. And he survived Auschwitz. So the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, of course, is extra meaningful and personal to me and my family. And he really inspires me in the work that I do full-time for HMTC. That's the name of our center. And I do this because I understand that I would not be here today if not for him.
Absolutely. What are some of the stories he told you about the horror he experienced, or even about how he survived it?
I never know which story to share because there are so many. I'll try to make this really concise. This one I always think about. He was at a labor camp before he went to Auschwitz, where he was caught he found scraps of potatoes in the sewer where he was working, these raw scraps of potatoes that someone had thrown as garbage, and he threw them in a big pot of boiling water at the camp and actually ate them to get a little bit of nourishment. There's more to the story, but that's the gist of it. He was caught, and Nazis told him to start digging his own grave. And he was digging. They made him even lay down next to it to make sure that he fit. And they held a gun to his head, said, dig, dig, dig. And when he was almost done, another prisoner collapsed. They shot that prisoner, threw him in the grave, and said to my poppy, isn't today your lucky day? Oh my goodness. And he had so many close calls with death. And I think about this all the time.
Can't imagine. Now, the commemoration comes at a time of uncertainty after the Hamas attack in Israel, the war in Gaza that followed. There's increased anti-Semitism around the world. In fact, a recent survey from the Anti-Defamation League says 46% of adults worldwide hold elevated levels of anti-Semitic attitudes. It also found 20% have not heard about the Holocaust. So it really goes to show that telling these stories are important, right?
Absolutely. And what I'm doing at HMTC is creating documentaries. I interview Holocaust survivors every single week and create short documentaries on their lives. They're posted all over social media, and on Instagram alone, they're getting sometimes over 100,000 views. Separately, our center educates tens of thousands of students every single year. We bring Holocaust survivors, children of survivors, and speakers to school districts all across Nassau and Suffolk County on Long Island and beyond. And this is our way of trying to educate one student at a time, because you're right, those stats are frightening. And all we can do, though, is focus on the present and what we are capable of doing. And our education team is just trying its hardest to get the lessons of the Holocaust out there and to teach our students.
All right, Dana Arshin from the Holocaust Memorial Tolerance Center, thanks so much for the work you do to keep these stories alive.
Thank you so much for caring enough to have me on and for featuring our center. We're so grateful.
To see more of Dana's work and hear more stories of Holocaust survivors, just go to hmtcli.org. Recently, at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center, 6 survivors left an important mark in Jewish history.
It's perfect. I do this in honor of Abraham and Gittel.
The men and women traced Hebrew letters in this special Torah. The religious text was found in northern Poland 7 years ago by the From the Depths Foundation, which works to educate the younger generation about the Holocaust. Apparently, a Polish shepherd hid it for his neighbor, a rabbi who was eventually sent to a concentration camp. John E. Daniels from the foundation says when it was discovered, the Torah was in dire condition.
It had fallen on hard times during communism, had cut up and used part of this Torah. But even the inspiration for carrying on saving this was also as a result of his faith, as a a Catholic.
Johnny's now on a mission to get every living Holocaust survivor to help restore the Torah. He says a third of it has been written by survivors. And once it's complete, the Torah will be held in the residence of the President of the State of Israel, where it can be used for celebrations again. The story of one of the most famous Holocaust victims is being displayed in a new way in the United States. More than 30 million people around the world have read the diary of Anne Frank, and the annex she and her family hid in for 761 days in Amsterdam has become one of the most visited historical sites in Europe. Now, a new exhibit is bringing that site to the United States. The life-size replica offering a new look into the life of Anne Frank. Currents News' Katie Vasquez gives us a sneak peek from the Flatiron District.
As World War II raged across Europe, a young Jewish girl named Anne Frank hid with her family in the annex of her father's company in Amsterdam, all the while writing a diary that would be translated into 75 languages. The home in Amsterdam receives 1 million visitors a year, with the executive director estimating 25% come from the U.S.
Tickets sell out very quickly, so we have been thinking for a longer period of time what we could offer to those audiences who are not able to visit the house itself.
A complete complete replica of the space is now available at the Center for Jewish History for the public to view, including the desk where she wrote her diary. But the exhibit also shares never-before-seen artifacts like poetry written by Anne and family photos to offer context of what shaped the young girl's life.
I think really do make it physically tangible that this girl, who we of course know from the diary, did have a real physical existence.
The exhibition comes at a time when anti-Semitism is at an all-time high. Organizers say it emphasizes the need to share her experience.
We're very convinced that having a fuller understanding of the complexities of history gives us an opportunity to talk and foster a conversation with people who might not always see eye to eye on things.
The center has invited 350 schools from as far away as California to educate young people with a curriculum developed by the Anne Frank Center at the University of South Carolina.
Young people's voices matter. Young people may not always realize that, but it was a 13, 14-year-old girl who has inspired this exhibit.
And while Anne and her family are the focus of this exhibit, organizers don't want people to forget all the other lives lost.
She was just one of 1.5 million Jewish children who were murdered during the Holocaust, and many of whom we don't know anything about them.
Anne Frank, the exhibition, will run through April 30th in the Flatiron District. Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
The Center for Jewish History says 10,000 tickets have already been sold. If you'd like to visit, you can learn more by visiting AnneFrankExhibit.org. Still to come on Currents News, how a Catholic priest helped save the life of a Jewish man during the Holocaust. Plus, this survivor's story.
I'm still glad I'm still here to tell about it.
She went to church and Catholic school to hide her Jewish identity, living to tell us about the Holocaust. 80 years after the Holocaust, 245,000 Jewish survivors are still alive to talk about the horrors they witnessed. For some, surviving Nazi occupation meant going into hiding, relying on the help of non-Jewish friends and neighbors. One Jewish man credits the kindness of a Catholic priest for helping to save his life. Currents News' Katie Vasquez has his story of survival from Freeport, Long Island.
You love posing with statues, so I have a ton of those.
It's been nearly 15 years since Midday Taub lost the love of her life, David.
Very proud of all of his grandchildren.
They were married for 52 years and shared the experience of being Jewish in Nazi-occupied France during World War II.
They had to wear Stars of David. Food was rationed. They couldn't use public transportation of any kind.
When David was 10 years old, his mother sent him 400 miles away to the French countryside to live with a family she trusted. One day he received a visit from a Catholic priest, Father Darius Duron, that changed his life.
And he said, I expect to see you at church tomorrow. And David, who was very outspoken, like his mother had been, said, I'm not converting. And the priest said to him, I don't expect you to convert. I expect to save your life.
David became a fixture at the local church as an altar server and also participating in the Catholic Boy Scouts.
I think he also loved being part of a group where he was accepted. And that was very important to a little boy who was afraid he'd lose his identity.
When the war ended, David returned to his parents in Paris, but eventually he received a letter from Father Duron.
The persecution will have matured your soul and will have given me the opportunity to get to know you and perhaps to be somewhat good to you. I keep a very good memory of you and of the good example that you have given to your little friends.
Decades later, when David was 75 years old, he wrote how the French priest was a blessing during a horrific time.
I kept this letter these many years because he was so important to me during that time.
Midday knows how much Father Duron's compassion meant during a period when there was little.
He definitely appreciated the priest, his kindness, and his concern for him. Isn't that what humans are supposed to do, be concerned? And the great horror of war, that war, other wars, is that a respect for human life is totally abandoned. Best wishes to your parents, and believe me, my dear David, My very affectionate feelings. It's signed Darius Durand.
In Freeport, Long Island, Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
An untold number of Catholic priests, religious and lay people have helped the Jewish people during the Holocaust, and past pontiffs have drawn attention to the tragedy by visiting the grounds. In 1979, Pope John Paul II became the first pope to visit Auschwitz. It was a dark moment for the Polish pontiff who lived through Hitler's invasion of Poland at 19 years old. In 2006, Pope Benedict XVI traveled to the camp, a long-awaited visit by a German pope. Many remember this image of Pope Benedict praying in front of 23 tombstones in the ruins of the crematorium ovens when a rainbow came out. Finally, Pope Francis was in Auschwitz in 2016. The Holy Father did not make a speech, but did pray silently in front of the cell where St. Maximilian Kolbe died. The Franciscan offered his life in place of a father who had been condemned to death. One survivor says she will never step foot inside the death camp. Esther Maidenbaum owes her life to a Catholic family who hid her and her sister for years. And while the 89-year-old woman wasn't there, she knows the horrors of Auschwitz all too well. Currents News' Jessica Easthope sat down with her in her Gravesend home.
It's the only picture that survived.
This picture is all Esther Maidenbaum has left of her mother.
My parents and me.
It shows a Jewish family who lived and worked in Paris, not knowing the horror that lied ahead of them.
It leaves scars, but I'm still glad I'm still here to tell about it.
Today, at 89 years old, Esther shares her story to honor her parents. They were both taken to Auschwitz, the complex of concentration camps known as the most brutal during World War II.
They knew he was a hairdresser. He used to cut officers' hair. That saved his life.
Her father survived, her mother did not. She was one of the 1.1 million Jews killed in Auschwitz.
She was an accountant. She worked for a big firm. Somebody reported her. She didn't have time to say anything. They just grabbed her and my grandmother. They threw them in the gas chamber.
In 1940, when the Nazis began to round up Jews in France, Esther's mom made the ultimate sacrifice, sending Esther and her younger sister into hiding. She handed them off to a priest. And from there, the two girls were taken to a small village in Normandy to stay with a Catholic family.
He had a whole organization in Paris to hide the children. We went to church and went to Catholic school. Okay, we were like part of the family, save our lives.
As the world marks 80 years since the liberation of Auschwitz, Esther prays history doesn't repeat itself.
Now there's so much anti-Semitism for no reason. People insult Jewish people.
Esther's story lives on through her memories and with her family.
And so this was his mother,
yeah,
who was also killed,
yes,
in Auschwitz.
Yeah.
She never visited Auschwitz and never will.
I didn't want to know.
She already knows too much.
Old memories.
In Gravesend, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Before we go, we want to leave you with a prayer in honor of Holocaust Remembrance Day. Hope to see you again next time.